Hello, friends. I'm Tansley Stearns. I'm the president and CEO at Orsa Credit Union. And I want to thank the coalition for bringing us together today, and each and every one of you for the work that you do on behalf of survivors. When I came to Orsa in June of 2022, I was so enthusiastic about the heart of our organization. Credit unions are known for giving generously, and we had important partnerships with organizations in this room standing with survivors, and had for years. We started to deepen that relationship because we believe that listening is a superpower. And we had the opportunity to walk with First Step and partner with survivors to better understand what the impacts of financial abuse and economic abuse were having, and how we might create a loan product that would allow people to make the choices that they wish to make to shape futures. As we did so, we were leaning further and further into standing with survivors, and we had a team member who's in this room today. Her name is Gretchen. And at the same time, there was this question happening on social that many of you have seen, I'm sure, which was, if you were a woman and you were in the woods and you were faced with a man or a bear, which would you choose? The bear. Now, my husband loves to tell me that that's a very dumb question. And his response tells you everything about why that question matters. And as that question was forming and more women were telling their stories, Gretchen came to me and said, Tansley, there's more that Orsa can do. We've done a lot, and this can be more than a product. It can be more than a check. It is a movement. And she was absolutely right. We are so proud at Orsa to be building this movement, that it is coming from a grassroots perspective. And we believe that sharing this story ensures that what has once been invisible, economic abuse, is no longer invisible, and that will lead us toward a path of a different future. And that brings us to our Choose the Bear tour and Laura Killingbeck. And we're so enthusiastic to have the opportunity to partner with Laura. She has just rode her bike across the state of Michigan, over 1,400 miles, friends. That deserves a big round of applause. And all along the way, she's been sharing the story of our great state, which we love, the mitten. She's been greeted by bugs and bears and all kinds of creatures. And more importantly, she's had conversations with survivors and organizations in this room that are serving survivors. And we are eager to share that story with you today. Laura, thank you for being here with us. Long before there was a bicycle or a route across Michigan, there was an online conversation that I mentioned, Choose the Bear. Take us back. How did that begin for you?
Yeah, so as Tansley mentioned, the Choose the Bear, Man or Bear began as an online debate. And at that time, I had only recently even gotten a phone. I've lived a lot of my life off-grid without a lot of technology. So I wasn't someone who usually got pulled into online debates. But I saw this, Man or Bear, and it made me really think about the reality of my own life. At a young age, I got a one-way ticket to Alaska and with my bicycle and started heading south. The purpose of that journey was really to try to extract myself from every external source of validation and try to see what it was like to be a person with intrinsic value in a world with intrinsic value in nature. And that is something that I've been drawn to over and over again. I've spent a lot of my life traveling long distances by foot or by bicycle, camping out in the forest, often alone, drinking out of streams and lakes and cooking over a fire. And I've noticed the difference in how I see myself and how I see the world in a place like nature, which is a space of relationship and mutuality, versus human society, which is constructed around so many hierarchies. So that juxtaposition was very real for me. I really did go into nature to extract myself from my relationship with society, which often did include my relationship with men. That relationship with men has, as it is for so many women, has been highly fraught. Not because I don't love men. Men are people who I love dearly, but because I haven't always felt so safe around men. And that is the fundamental point of the man or bear debate, is this reality that women do not always feel so safe around men, even though we deeply want to. We deeply want to because we love men, and we love women, and we love people. And we're all joined as people in relationship. So when I saw the man or bear debate, it inspired me to write a story about it. I was working as a freelance writer at the time. And I wrote a story about my own experiences and a story about these realities. It included a reflection on patriarchy as a social system that we're organized around, and how this trickles down to our everyday lives and experiences as people. The point of this story was to open the conversation and to see it as an open door instead of a closed door. That story ended up going viral, so it got shared around the world, and the degree to which people shared it and commented on it really proved to me that this is a conversation that people are craving. It's a conversation that we live in a world right now where there's many types of division, and what people desperately want is safety and connection. So how do we get there? That is the conversation that I think you are all having all the time, that you are having in this room and at this conference. And it's at the heart of why we did this bike ride for Choose the Bear.
People often describe a woman doing that as inherently dangerous, doing a bike ride like what you've just done. In fact, I think about doing it and it brings my palms a lot of sweat. What does that reaction reveal about how we think about women's safety, freedom, and responsibility?
It's such an interesting question, and it's one that's been difficult for me to answer over the course of my life. People have always asked, are you afraid to bike or hike or camp alone? And like many women who bike and hike and camp alone, because there are many of us out here, I've always said, oh, the world's a great place, da, 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 da. And it is, and there are also complications to that. As women, we are told continuously to be careful. Anywhere that we are. If you're walking down the street, be careful to have your key in your hand when you go to your car. Be careful to cover your drink at the bar. Be careful about what you wear. Be careful about who you talk to on a dating app. Be careful, be careful, be careful. We're told this everywhere. Because, as everyone in this room knows, there are actual reasons for that. There is violence that's happening across every level of our society, especially towards women. Especially towards women of color, Indigenous women, and people at those intersections of demographic. And so what's interesting to me is that people will warn women throughout our lives to be careful, but then as soon as a woman is acting independently and autonomously, people will say, oh, well, that's dangerous. That's the thing that's dangerous, is that autonomy. That's the thing that's dangerous. And I guess my response now is, well, compared to what? I think that when we look at what the partners here have taught me is that domestic violence, violence against women is really happening for the most part in the home. It's happening within known relationships most of the time. Not all of the time, but most of the time. And so there is this fundamental juxtaposition that we really wanted to highlight in this bike ride. that violence is happening often in the place where, as a society, we don't necessarily expect it to happen. And I think that autonomy, and by autonomy I don't mean being alone, I mean being oneself, the ability to make choices for oneself on one's own behalf, the ability to trust one's intuition, that kind of autonomy, that is essential to safety across the board.
When ORSA first approached you and wanted to take this a bit further and bring this ride to life, what made you willing to have a partnership with a credit union?
Thank you, Tansley. So I was approached by ORSA, by a credit union, a financial institution, to talk about these issues, to learn about these issues, and write about these issues. And it was certainly a surprise because you don't normally see financial institutions approaching this conversation and saying, we want to be here. I think we're living in a time when it takes a lot of courage for financial institutions to say, we stand with women. A tremendous amount of courage. And so I immediately respected that. I have great respect for that. And quite frankly, I do think it is probably something that a financial institution has not done before, send a solo woman on a bike ride across the state to study gender-based violence. I don't see that happening often. So it did seem like something that I would love to be a part of, and I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah. Was there anything you were skeptical about at the beginning?
It was skeptical, interesting. I mean, I think it was a relationship that evolved over time. We got to know each other over time and realized that we were in this together.
Yeah. This was an endurance ride, and it was also designed to be a listening journey. Looking back, what did listening teach you that riding alone would not?
So I have a background in social sciences. I have also studied coercive control, gender, and power. But domestic violence specifically is its own science, as everyone in this room knows. It's a science just like physics. I mean, it is so complex. There's so much to it. And people who are on the ground, who are doing this work day in and day out, who are doing frontline work, who are doing systems work, you understand this on a visceral level. You understand what's going on. You've seen it. You've felt it. So the real purpose of this ride was to hear more of those stories, pay attention and listen, and allow my own understanding of violence in relationships to transform. Like anyone who's coming into this sector, even if I didn't want to have an assumption about what domestic violence was, even if I had my own experience with domestic violence, even if I've studied all these other things, it really, there's still so much in our society that's creating a sense of various shades of stigma and different things that are happening when you think of domestic violence. And so it was crucial to listen. I think that part of advocacy is, the bulk of advocacy is listening to people like yourselves who are on the ground doing the work.
You traveled from shelters to coalitions, tribal communities, local nonprofits, and gathering spaces across our state. How did your understanding of Michigan's survivor support ecosystem evolve as you moved through it?
It is extraordinary what's happening in Michigan. The network that you have built is vast. I know that the problem is also vast, but what you have created is really special. As I moved across the state, I met different people who were all working in this sector, but they were working at it from different angles of perspective. People came to this field with different personalities, different strengths, and everyone here is here for a reason. it became very clear to me as I spoke with partners across the state that as different as every person and group was, each one was crucial. And each person came here for a crucial reason.
Where did you notice gaps, barriers, or opportunities for stronger partnerships?
Well, I think that that's something that this conference is really fleshing out. The work that you're doing here is talking about exactly that. I think that in terms of who gets attention in our society, it's easier for a white woman on a bicycle to get attention than it is for Black, brown, and indigenous women to get attention who are actually in abusive relationships that are resulting in death. There's a strange juxtaposition to that. And so part of the purpose of this journey was to take this ride, find these stories, make these connections, and hopefully bring stories that aren't usually paid attention to, bringing those stories with me along this journey. We are in a society, again, that's governed by hierarchy, and that hierarchy is continuously happening from a variety of spaces and from a variety of directions all of the time. And so part of being on this journey has been a learning curve for me, a continuous learning curve. It's a learning curve that will happen for the entirety of my life, about how to identify and methodically continue to try to extract myself from those hierarchies.
No matter where you went, you met people already doing demanding, highly skilled work. What did spending time with advocates teach you about what this movement requires?
I think it just requires very special people. People are in this field are experiencing the full spectrum of hope and despair over and over again. You're holding space for it in yourself. You're holding space for it for each other. You're holding space for it for our society. It just requires special people.
One moment that stayed with many of us came during your visit to Uniting Three Fires Against Violence, when Sandra asked, "Are we going to be good ancestors?" What did that question open up for you?
I loved visiting Uniting Three Fires. Sandra Pilgrim Lewis is a very special person. How she would answer that question for herself as an Indigenous woman is important. How I would answer that question for myself where I'm at now is that I believe we are all here in a moment in time. We are here in this moment in time. And this moment in time goes backwards and forwards. When we learn to love ourselves and the world in this moment, then that transfers onwards in all directions. When we learn to love ourselves and the world in this moment, that is the kind of safety that we create for ourselves and our communities that moves forward and expands.
Was there another person, place, or conversation that fundamentally changed how you understand this work?
I think every partner changed how I understand this work because every partner was so different. Every partner was coming from a different position and perspective. I think working with ORSA in particular was such a unique lens. The idea that a financial institution can integrate advocacy into banking is a very unique idea. And as I've said before, I hope many financial institutions will take a page from that playbook. We need systemic change. We need systemic change on an individual, community, institutional, governmental, on every single level of society. We need change. So it's heartening to see that happening in places that you wouldn't have predicted.
You were entrusted with stories that were heavy, personal, sometimes painful. How did you think about your responsibility as a storyteller to honor what was shared without turning anyone's pain into content?
Yes, it is an honor to be gifted someone's story, especially a tender story, a difficult story. It's a great honor to be gifted that, and I think that treating that with care is very important to me, to the best of my ability. So I'm very grateful for everyone who shared what they shared with me. I think consent is crucial to that process, asking people if they are comfortable sharing, telling them how it will be used, and then telling them that they can, if they don't like how I've written about it, or they can make a change. We don't have to publish anything. We don't have to post anything. The person whose story, the person who the story belongs to is the person who owns it and can decide whether to share it or not. So that was a very crucial, I think, crucial part of this.
You have often found healing and perspective in nature. During this ride, how did being outside shape the way you processed what you were hearing and carrying these stories forward?
I've always gone to nature because nature is a place of relationship and mutuality. Nature is a place where everything is doing something together. When the sun heats up the air, everything is feeling it and experiencing it and changing with it. Even a rock is heating up in the sun and cooling down at night. Everything is part of the same moment in time. So being in nature for me has been a model for how I want to be in general. Again, living in human society right now, we're living in a society that is based on hierarchies, and so those hierarchies filter into every segment of our lives, thinking, and relationships. And so going into nature for me is a time of study. It's a study through osmosis, I guess, just being there, feeling what that's like to be free from those hierarchies, and then trying to hold as much of that with me as I can.
After 1,400 miles, what assumptions did you leave behind?
Wow. I think that there are so many assumptions about domestic violence that I didn't know that I had, that are still in the process. I'm still in the process of extracting myself from. It's a lifelong process. Domestic violence is systemic, and so I think understanding it probably happens and evolves over time.
After all these miles, all these conversations, what leaves you with the greatest sense of hope?
You know, this is such a difficult and special field for people to be working in. Everyone here is here for a reason. Everyone here is a special person who's doing something very important. And I think that I see hope in everyone who is giving themselves the space to be fully themselves in this work. There are ups and downs, there's hope and despair, and it's the understanding and process of being there through that spectrum that I think is what helps us to create a sense of safety in ourselves and a sense of safety that we can share with our communities. I have a deep respect for everyone in this room, for everyone who is doing this work. I think it is some of the most powerful and special work that a person can be doing. You are creating safety in the world.
I have one more question, and then we'll open it to the audience. So think of the questions you may have for Laura. This is a very special moment. When this began, what did you hope would happen? And what happened that you never might have anticipated?
I think what I hoped would happen is a real journey, a journey that unfolded over time, and a journey of relationship. I think that relationship is the impact, because if the goal is healthy relationship, then the journey also needs to be healthy relationship. And I think that did unfold in that way. And I'm really grateful for that. And like I said, I think that what has really been instilled in me throughout this process is just a very deep sense of respect for people who are working in this field.
Okay, friends, what questions might you have for Laura? Or for me, if you wish. She's way more interesting, though.
No, no, I'm not. Tansley has stories.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your journey. And I'm going to ask for grace, as we know that Mercury is in retrograde right now, and I have no idea how this question is going to come out, but I'm going to try it anyway. I'm picking up from hearing you say that there is this relationship between you and nature that matters. And I have a friend who teaches Reiki and stuff like that, and she went on Facebook about 2 weeks ago, and she said, listen, trees can hear you talking and they can communicate with you. And she said, here, tree, touch my face. And the tree literally touched her face. And I'm curious as to whether or not you have that kind of relationship with horticulture or plants or trees. And does that mean anything to you? And how did that strike you as you were making your travels from one place to the other? Like you went into these organizations to have these conversations, but what kind of conversations were you having in nature after meeting with folks? I'm just really curious about that. And also, are you familiar with the tree of heaven? It's a weed, actually, a stinkweed.
Oh.
I am not, but I'd love to be.
Okay, we'll talk about that later. But I'm curious about this relationship piece that you're talking about, and I'm wondering, did you imagine anything related to your relationship to nature as well as your relationship to the organizations, and what that might mean in terms of teaching us about safety and relationships in the work that we do?
Thank you so much for asking that question. I think I've always wanted to have been asked that question. I mean, you're asking about, it sounds like the spiritual experience of being in nature, and what is that? And so I have my own experience that I can speak to, but personally, when I spend extended time in nature in which I don't have a phone, I don't have music, I'm not talking to people very much, and I'm not in society as it's arranged, I do typically feel a sense that nature is emotional in a way that we don't acknowledge in Western culture, that nature shares an energy, and that energy is freely available to everyone at any time. You got me. Thank you. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Other questions for Laura or for me? We have, oh yes, Tumi. Hi, Tumi.
Hi, Laura. Hi, Tansley.
Hi.
Hi. So my question is, and I wrote it down so I don't stumble. Access to nature is an opportunity and a privilege that is not available to everybody. So how do we bridge that gap and support survivors in that space? Do you have any ideas? Did you learn anything from the organizations you were with?
That's a great question. Yeah, and it speaks to so many other questions of what is nature, what is the difference between people and nature. We are nature, we come from nature. Everything here is built of nature in some way. I think that even small experiences can be valuable. Even just, I know this is going to sound strange, but being able to look at the sky and see a cloud that's shifting in the air, that is nature. And the pattern that that cloud is going through, the change that's happening, that is its own language. I think that language is harder to access in those smaller doses, but it is still there. And I think that bringing people into nature more and bringing nature to people, having more plants and animals and everything as part of our lives is important. I don't know if there's a replacement for it, honestly. So I think in the situation in which we're in, doing the best we can with what we have is where we're at.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for being here. Can you talk about, I know, so I'm a fundraiser, but I'm in this space today, and can you talk about the somatic nature of being, and how that can kind of transfer into those of us that have to live in society, and how we can slow down and notice things? Or was that your experience?
Yeah, thank you for asking. There was a speaker this morning who so brilliantly did this when she put her hand on her heart and on her gut, and she did this. This is how you can get to that place of simply being here in this moment in the way that nature is constantly providing. So I think that all of those techniques of somatic healing are the techniques that I would say are coming from nature, coming from a space of mutuality and relationship and safety. This is safety. This is a safe place that I get to be in, and I get to share that safety with people around me if I'm able to.
Yes, please.
This question is for you, Tansley. So, thinking of the work that you guys are doing together, which is brilliant, but as an organization, as the funder of this work, you took a risk with this campaign, with using funds, member funds, to do this work. What led you to that, outside of Gretchen? What led you to this campaign, and what made you anchor in? Because this is a huge risk to take when everybody does not often believe in the work that we're doing.
Thank you for the question. I'm really honored to serve a board of directors that has a very bold vision. And one of the pillars of our strategy is to be a best friend to women and those who love them. And that's where all of this begins. And what I appreciated about Gretchen's challenge and continues to grow this movement is it is becoming systemic to ORSA. So while this Choose the Bear ride has come to completion, we are at the starting line of this journey. And what that means is when you use your debit card with ORSA and you tap it in your daily transactions, that can be going to our Choose the Bear fund. You can round up with us, and that can go to our Choose the Bear fund. So while giving is a core part of who we are and has been for 75 years as we celebrate our 75th anniversary, the work that we are doing as an organization now that takes it to a movement is that when you are a member of ORSA, every day using us helps us to accelerate progress. And that is, to me, how we ensure that change occurs. And the only way that that happens, getting back to your question of how you can be brave, is you are brave surrounding yourself with people who are better than you and braver than you and believe in changing the world and bringing impossible dreams to life. And that's what we do. Okay, well, we are going to be around, and at 5:30 we're going to have a celebration. We hope that you'll join us for that. We were going to go outside, and it turns out that nature is bringing us some precipitation. We'll be right inside here, and we hope that you'll join us. I want to thank Laura. Let's give her a big huzzah. Yes, please, as we should.
And Tansley, please, and orsa, to orsa and Tansley.